And we're live. Welcome back to another Corona Geek where we talk all about mobile app development using Corona SDK. I'm your host, Charles McKeever. And today we're going to move quickly. We have with us Dean Murphy, the creator of Crystal, which is, if you haven't been paying attention, there is a lot of action going on in the iOS 9 ad blocker space. He's had the #1 iOS ad blocker in the Apple AppStore. And we'll talk about a little bit what that means here in a minute. But he's joining us today, and we're going to talk all about ad blockers, about the ad industry. We're going to talk about consumers. We're going to talk about content creators, and then we're also going to hear Dean's developer story. So Dean, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. It's good to be back.
Yeah, excellent. Also joining us on the panel is Maurina from roaminggamer.com. And we've also got Stephen Johnson from ubalbastudios.com. So Dean, you've been featured on Wall Street Journal and the Next Web and TechCrunch and BBC. It seems like this is an exciting ride.
Definitely a very unexpected ride as well. To get all the publicity that I've got.
I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. There's I know that you've created several apps in the past. There's more than just the ad blocker, and I know some of the people in the Corona community would know you best as the developer of Joke Shake and Number Tap and Number Tap 2 and stuff like that. But I know now you're focused specifically on iOS development. So did you expect at any point you'd be like showing up in the #1 charts on the Apple iTunes?
Not at all. I mean, first thing is, with an ad blocker being so controversial, I didn't know if Apple would actually accept it into their store to begin with. So that was one worry.
Oh yeah, I was a little surprised that they even went that route with ad blockers. Do they call it ad blockers, or do they call it, what do they call it?
Content blocking.
Content blocking. So they don't go so far as to actually say that they're encouraging the blocking of ads. They just give you the ability to block content.
Yeah, and what content you block, depends on what you make. But the majority of content that people want to be blocked tends to be adverts, or
right,
things that take up a lot of space on the screen. And
I'm trying to imagine what would be the other thing that you would block. I guess you could just block images in general. I guess you could block.
Yeah, I mean, for data saving, just all images, all custom fonts. Maybe something like that. If you have low data or something.
Does Crystal do that? Does it do any? Can you turn it on to block just images or anything like that, or is it just focused entirely on ads?
It's just focused on ads and tracking scripts, so stuff that tracks users and profiles them around different websites.
Okay, so for those who don't know, you can install. Tell us how Crystal works. Give us the process of what a user experiences when they install Crystal.
Okay, so you download it from the App Store, you open it, and it gives you 3 simple instructions. You need to go into your Settings app, scroll to the right option, and turn it on. And by turning it on, what happens is Safari will grab basically a big text document, a big JSON document, just listing all the different rules of what to block, and Safari will load that into its memory. So every time you visit a page on Safari, it will run it by this block list and block whatever's necessary.
Okay, and is it just in Safari?
It's just in Safari or any apps that use. This came out in iOS 9, Safari View Controller to view web content. So in iOS 9, Apple released a new type of web view.
So would you think we would ever see it in like Chrome? And does it block in Chrome?
No, because that uses an older version of the web view.
I think that would be interesting, though, right? So really, when we're talking,
I don't think Google will implement it for some reason.
Yeah, maybe not, right? Well, and that's an interesting part of the conversation, right? Is because everybody is, I say everybody, content creators and supporters of the advertising industry and things like that. They all seem to be kind of running around saying, making claims that the sky is falling. What do you think about that?
No, that's the thing. No one really knows what the impact was going to be like how many downloads it's going to have, how many, if people's actually going to use it or not. I mean, Safari, in terms of mobile share, has a very small amount compared to the whole, websites in general. like mobile Safari has a very small percentage of views. Like a lot of, I've heard a lot of news outlets say that the majority of their browsing comes from the Facebook app or Twitter app, which both use their own web view, and both don't. Crystal doesn't work within them web views. So,
Facebook's uses React or whatever, right? They're trying to not use native.
That's right. Yeah, they like to keep you within their own app, keep that experience within the Facebook app, rather than throw you off to Safari every time you click a link that your friend shares.
So really, So really, what we're talking about is blocking content within Safari, which and Safari only on iOS devices.
Yeah, iOS 9, and also it's limited to 64-bit devices. So anything newer than an iPad Air or iPhone 5S.
Oh, okay. So anything older just won't run it?
That's right. Yeah, it can't be installed on any older devices because Apple limits it to 64-bit devices, just because the CPU is more powerful and more efficient at iterating through a bigger list of, a bigger list every time it loads a web page.
Okay. So this is specific to Safari. It doesn't block any ads in apps or anything like that then?
No apps, no games, unless they use the new Safari View Controller to show their content. But very few apps are doing that at the moment.
So if there was a time when people did, then I guess that you could block those then from within that. But that would only be, like you say, if there was that one particular view.
That's right. Yeah.
Interesting. So what's the response been like from the community or from users in general?
Yeah, I mean, it's been very positive because it's had a lot of downloads. Again, going back to what you said before about what kind of impact it has, looking at my download numbers, I'd say mine is probably the most downloaded out of all the apps because it was on #1 on the paid charts across 30 different countries. But knowing the download numbers and knowing how many iOS devices are out there, I think it's not really, it's just a little storm in a teacup. It's not really something that the majority of people are downloading.
I saw, what was it? I saw on Twitter that somebody did a what do you call that, the diagram where they show overlapping circles, and somebody said here are the people who would install an ad blocker, and here are the people who would actually click on an ad, and they're like the two circles were right next to each other, and they weren't actually overlapping.
Yeah,
which says a lot about I guess maybe the focus audience for this. I don't know that everybody knows that it's available. What do you think about that? You think everybody knows that they can install blockers?
Possibly not. I mean, it does spread very well through word of mouth because you do get a lot of performance gains by running an ad blocker. Because a lot of websites have multiple different ad networks attached to them, multiple different tracking networks attached to them. Some in my example have had like 20 different ad networks that it tries to download all different JavaScript files, etc. And in my test across 10 popular news websites, pages loaded on average 4 times faster and use half the bandwidth. So it's one of the things that once you've tried it, it spreads virally because you tell your friends, look at this, look how fast this is now compared to yours, and yeah, that's pretty much how it's spread really.
I know you've done a lot of different polls on your site to kind of get a feel for what people are interested in and stuff. Have you done any sort of informal polls where you just like reach out to your parents or your family and say, do you even know that you can block ads?
Mainly my friends. I've been. My family pretty much know what I'm doing, so it's hard to ask them because I've been telling them about it for the past few months. That's all I've been talking about.
Good. Skewed the results.
But but my friends definitely, I've been telling them about it, and they seem very impressed with it.
Because I would be interested to reach out. I haven't done this yet, but I reach out to my extended family and say, hey, did you know that you could do this? Because I would be curious to know if A, have they even updated to iOS 9, and B, if they even know. Because obviously we're all techies, so we're kind of jumping on the bandwagon for things, but I wonder how much of the general population even knows that they can do it.
Yeah, definitely. It's not something that Apple is heavily promoting. There's a lot of ad blockers that are hitting like the top selling apps, top paid apps. But Apple's not really, over the past couple of weeks, they've not featured any, they've not advertised any on their home screen or anything. So I think Apple's trying to keep out of promoting them, just let them exist in the background.
Right, yeah.
That's my little theory about it. Because being how controversial it is.
Yeah, you're right. That is a good point. And calling it content blockers as opposed to ad blocker kind of keeps them out of the hot water as well. But I know that a lot of conspiracy theorists were kind of saying, oh, this is flying in the face of Google and it's really going to hit their ad revenue and things like that. And I'm thinking, well, don't forget Google has a whole platform called Android, which sells a lot of devices. So I don't think they're going away anytime soon. So, and they're certainly not going to implement ad blockers on their end. So I don't know what problems that's going to show up on their platform.
I mean, after looking at a lot of adverts over the past few months while testing this, Google is some of the best in terms of performance and stuff like. They got very lightweight ads compared to a lot of other, and not obtrusive, not in your face, not obnoxious, like redirecting you to different app stores and stuff. So Google's some of the best ads out there at the moment.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you get into it. People want to say advertisers, but really there's the advertiser who is a company or even an individual who wants to get in front of eyeballs, get in front of consumers, and then there's the ad network. And then there's the content creator who creates something and then puts ads on their site so they can help support their endeavors, and then there's the consumer. And it just seems like the advertisers are willing to do whatever it takes to get the eyeballs. The ad networks are trying to facilitate the process, and then content creators and consumers, they're just trying to do what they do, right? So it's hard to know where do you think the breakdown is when it comes to ads. I mean,
I would say a lot of the worst offending websites, it will be the publishers themselves, the content creators themselves, just purely because I don't know if they need this. They need all these adverts for their business, but they just overload their website with so many different ad networks and so many different trackers to the point where it deteriorates. Like I said earlier, I mean, it takes 4 times more time to load it with ads. It's 4 times faster to load it without ads. That's very detrimental to the user experience and uses up more than 50% of the data of the bandwidth, which is quite precious. If you've got slow network or if you're roaming abroad and you're on a limited plan or whatever. You
raise an interesting point, and this is really this conversation at this point is all in the web space, right? We're not really talking about ads in apps. Yeah, we're talking about ads on the general open web, but the same thing holds true. I mean, I know we've all seen apps that you open them up and then you've got like a banner ad at the bottom, and then you have an interstitial ad, and then you have the app pops open an ad the very first time it loads, and same thing holds true. It's just trying to like overzealous, right?
Yeah, just trying to balance what's good for the user and what's profitable for the creator.
Right.
That's a fine line to cross sometimes.
So, we'll get to that in a moment. I want to ask you you're talking about some of the stats on ads being delivered and things like that. We'll get to some of this in a moment, but I want to pick your brain on what content creators can do to make things better. But first, I want to see. Did you have any haters? Did you have any what's the feel been like? It's a lot of pressure, I would imagine, for someone. An individual trying to balance all this. What's that been like?
Yeah, originally I had, I don't know, maybe a lot of downloads. For example, I put my app for free for 12 hours just to get the initial word out, just to email out to my mailing list. And it had over 100,000 downloads within 12 hours, and there were free downloads on the App Store. So I got off to a good start. And out of all them users, I had maybe 3 or 4 not nasty emails, just emails saying, do you know that you're ruining the free web? And they're quite constructive in what they were saying. I've had no nasty hit and runs. But since then, I've announced a new update, a new feature coming in a new update, where there's an option to enable acceptable ads. And this is based on AdBlock Plus. They're a big blocker on the desktop. they run this scheme where if your website conforms to these 5 rules to display adverts, and they're quite strict rules, they add you to a whitelist. So I'm adding that as an option, so just mainly to encourage the use of responsible advertising on the web.
I saw your
and
blog.
I've had a lot of hate about that.
You got a lot of hate about that.
Yeah, a lot. Basically, I think the Wall Street Journal or The Verge, one of them, run a story saying that I'm taking money from advertisers to let their adverts get through to, the users of Crystal.
Oh, okay.
And they run all these headlines. And basically, most people who's reached out to me and said, "Is this true?" I've showed them my blog post. Said, "No, that's not true. Here's the facts." And they go, "Oh, okay, that's not as bad as what I thought."
I
just,
did.
A lot. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. There's a little latency. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying. A lot of people didn't realise that it's an option available to users. It's not going to be forced onto anyone. So a lot of people said, "If this happens, I'm going to threaten legal action because you've sold me a product that's doing the opposite of what you said." It's like, no, it's just an option. You can turn it on or off. It's up to you. You don't have to use it. It's only there for people who want to.
Well, it would sound like that would be a decent thing to add, because I know that Marco Arment pulled his app, and so for those who don't know, Marco had an app called Peace, which there for a while it was he and you, him and you, or you and him, or whatever, that it was going head to head at it, and so Marco pulled his app, and he actually wrote on his blog, he had a whole blog post about it. And he said, "Peace required that all ads be treated the same, all or nothing enforcement for decisions that aren't black and white. This approach is too blunt, and Ghostery, which is the service that he was using, and I have both decided that it doesn't serve our goals or beliefs well enough. And if we're going to affect positive change overall, a more nuanced, complex approach is required than what I can bring in a simple iOS app." And he says, "I still believe that ad blockers are necessary today, and I still think Ghostery is the best one, but I've learned over the last few crazy days that I don't feel good about making one and being the arbiter of what's blocked." So it seems like adding an option where someone has some level of control on their end would be a positive thing.
Yeah, I mean, the quote that stuck out to me is, if we're going to affect positive change, a more nuanced and complex approach is needed, and that's really what I'm trying to bring in. Just I run a survey with all the people who were on my download page. I said, "You can help me out by filling out a survey," and on that survey, more than 50% of people were happy to see ads that weren't intrusive and had a strict criteria attached to them. So that's why I decided to put this product into it, or this acceptable ads option into it, because more than 50% of my users said they don't mind seeing adverts. It's just the very obnoxious ones that ruin it for them.
Well, let's talk about reviews here. I saw you and I talked like a week ago or so, and set up this slot for the interview, and I think at the time you had maybe I was reading it wrong, but my memory says there was somewhere in the neighborhood of 460 reviews, and they were like 4.5 5-star reviews. And I checked it today just before we got on the show, and you have 2,400 plus reviews, and now it's at 3 stars. I know you haven't pushed an update to the app, so is it just this press that's kind of pushing the reviews, or what's happened there?
Mainly just all the reviews are just purely based from this Verge article, and then all the articles have linked to the Verge. Like, if the Verge or the Wall Street Journal posts something, a lot of other websites are going to pick it up and post it. So yeah, a lot of people just misunderstanding the whole situation.
Well, I think you've done really well.
As best I can.
Yeah, I think you've done really well to publish. Be kind of transparent and try to make sure that you voice the concerns and stuff like that. But when you look at what's interesting, here's the thing: is when you look at the reviews, it's not. When you look at reviews, you always look for a common thread, right? And you try to figure out what the aggregate is. When you look at your reviews, you have like 1,028. 1,128 that are 5-star reviews. Fantastic, right? And then there's 1,050 that are 1-star reviews. So I'm thinking, again, this is just a week ago, everybody was thrilled with it, But now as you've got all this press, it's all kind of pushed it down, right? So, but it's a 50-50 split. It's not like you have 500 one-star reviews. It's like a 50-50 split in the reviews. So.
Funny enough, that's what my stats told me. 50% of people are happy to see ads based on a criteria. 50% aren't. So I think it's the ones who aren't happy who think it's going to get pushed onto them because it wasn't reported in the most accurate of ways, unfortunately. The headlines were a bit, as always, designed for maximum page views, maximum sharing, etc.
Yeah, well, it's a hot button issue too, and I I was going to ask you this question earlier, and I think we've kind of already covered it, but I'll go ahead and ask it anyways. Do you feel like this is Dean, the developer of Crystal? Are you just capitalizing, an app developer out there capitalizing on the backs of the content creator, or do you feel like this is a larger movement that's driven by the consumer to say, hey, we're tired of advertising in its current state? What do you think? Is this something bigger than just you?
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to capitalize on it, I could have put. I know for my stats, I could have put a much higher price point on it and kept it, like Marco did and what a few of the other apps did. Because I run also in my survey, I run, how much would you pay for an app like this? And the average was around about $3 to $5. So I know I priced mine at 99 cents, and also made it very, very. I used one of Apple's newest tiers, which makes it very, very affordable in low-income countries like China, India, Mexico. I think it's around about 20 or 30 cents equivalent in them countries. So if I wanted to capitalize on it, I would have made, I had the potential to make a lot more money. But at the end of the day, I just want to see a better web, one without, the big giant flash pop-ups, redirecting into the App Store, auto-playing videos when you're on like a 3G connection or 4G connection. That's mainly what I want to see, just a web that's usable again on the mobile.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because it's not. I mean, Apple has introduced content blockers, which I think just because Apple's so high profile, this is kind of set. It's a hot button and it's set up flares and everybody's like, But desktop pop-up blocking has been it's very popular and it's been on the rise. So it's kind of interesting to see that.
Yeah, it's been increasing year over year over the past 8 to 9 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And look, I pulled a quote from Ad Age, and they say that the billions of dollars will be lost. But they're also talking about desktop ad blocking, not just whatever Apple's doing. And they even go on to say that ad blocking hasn't become a massive problem for publishers on the level of fraudulent traffic or advertisers' ad viewability demands that require more urgent attention because of the growing notion that marketers will pull their money over those two issues. But it's getting there. So they're saying right there that ad blocking is a problem, but we actually have larger problems, even with our own industry, that we have to deal with. So what do you think about that? I mean,
definitely. I mean, when you look at a lot of advertising ways measuring CPM, like cost per, is it million, something like that.
Cost per thousand. Yeah.
Yeah, that's easy to pronounce. Cost per thousand. If someone's running an ad blocker, or if someone wants to run an ad blocker, is that one person worth, or is that is 1,000 people who want to run an ad blocker worth targeting? If you're doing a CPM campaign, that's one thing I've been thinking of. Like, if people are so passionate about using ad blockers, are they really worth it to be advertised to in terms of like banner ads and interstitials and stuff like that? Because they're the type of people who don't want that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they're more aware of that kind of stuff.
I was going to ask the panel, do you guys even see ads anymore? Does anybody even really register ads mentally anymore?
No, I totally. I register them when they get in my way when I'm playing like a game or something, or I'm talking about in games here. But as far as like on web pages and stuff, no, totally ignore them.
Yeah, which is interesting because we can't we have a harder time filtering out text than we do images, right? Because we're looking for information and we're reading it and that sort of thing, which has led to advertisers trying to inject content into sites that looks like legitimate content but is actually in fact ads. But overall, yeah, I feel like I don't know, Sergey, what do you register ads anymore? Do you even think about them?
I do see them, but I try to ignore them, and I try to use my ad blocker to the most on my websites. But in the applications, it's often they promote something that is already well known, and that they don't have much effect. But the other thing to consider is that when you are presented with ads and you dismiss it, it actually stays in your subconscious, and the other time you see this product on website somewhere, it just clicks in your mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in remarketing or retargeting, where you, as soon as you've gone to a site, now you start to see those ads everywhere, and the idea there is that it's just that bringing that person's product back to the consumer's mind over and over again, and then eventually they're like, well, I see this thing all over the place. Maybe I'll go ahead and buy it. But I don't know. It's funny because the CBS Interactive's chief revenue officer, David Morris, he says he also serves as the chairman of Interactive Advertising Bureau, and he says he agreed that there are bigger issues facing publishers, though blocking isn't far behind. So I think that we're kind of getting to the point where this is beginning to grow. I feel like this is a movement where people are saying, hey, look, I don't mind advertising, but I want something that's more relevant to me, and I want better ads. What do you think about that, Dean? Do you think there's a way for the industry to come up with a better solution?
That's the biggest question I've been asking myself the past few months. I don't have an answer to this. I don't know what the best solution is for.
You think it's even prepared to change? I mean, you think it's receptive, or do you think there'll have to be more sort of consumer backlash in order to make something happen?
Basically, yeah, as soon as it stops being as profitable, as soon as they lose, like, I don't know, X amount of revenue from people blocking it, then they'll start to adapt. I mean, advertising is not going anywhere. It's always going to be around in one shape or form. My main goal is just to have it more performance efficient on mobile, a lot more respective of the data use. That's my main goal.
So let's talk about that for a moment, because you put on your site, you did some graphs and charts and stuff like that to talk about that. So what are the benefits to the user? I mean, besides just not seeing ads, what are sort of the intrinsic value to a user?
I actually had a support email yesterday of someone making a complaint about about the opposite of something that a lot of people complain about. So the iPhone 5S has 1 GB of memory. The iPad Air has 1 GB of memory. And with Crystal installed, the support email was complaining that he likes to open up lots of tabs in Safari and then switch between them, and they automatically refresh because obviously they're thrown out of the RAM because they're using up too much space. With Crystal installed, they don't automatically refresh; they stay in the memory. And everyone normally complains that web pages get thrown out of memory because of the RAM constraints, but this guy is complaining because it's not staying, because it is getting chucked, because it's not staying, no, because it's staying in the memory. So I find the support email quite funny.
I do too, because I actually hate the fact that Safari on iOS refreshes, because I tend to leave those tabs. I leave a bunch of tabs open with the intent of coming back to them later and reading them, and then as soon as I do, it refreshes, and I'm like,
so he was using that as a feature to auto refresh the tabs just by having a lot open and switching between them every time he wanted more news, which makes me feel that XKCD comic, every bug is a feature for someone.
Right.
Right. But yeah, that's one benefit, because you download half the data. There's a lot less stuff in the RAM, so you can have more pages open, which is a big benefit, along with the speed and the reduced bandwidth use.
Data wasn't one of the things that I was thinking about when I thought about the page loading faster. I didn't necessarily think that that's a lot of data being pulled over the wire, and I know we're all paying for data packages. Some of us, I mean, I know for myself, I pay more for data than I'd probably do for my car on a monthly basis. I mean, it's just crazy.
Probably, yeah. Another benefit of you're downloading less data, you're using the networking a lot less, which means better battery. You spend less time, less CPU cycles running through all the different JavaScripts that get downloaded. So it all gives a positive impact to the battery as well, which I haven't really tested to see what kind of. I'd like to do a controlled test to see what the battery impact is, but I can't seem to find a good way of doing it.
Yeah, that would be interesting because you're really engaging the radio, and the radio, the cell radio, is one of the most expensive pieces of the device in terms of battery use and things like that. For sure. I mean, if you put yourself in airplane mode, you can get 2 days worth of use out of your device, probably.
Definitely, yeah. Especially websites that have like the trackers that run in the background. Like once you've downloaded the web page, they're still firing off home every few seconds, so where on the page are you, how long are you there for, and stuff like that, and to check your bounce rate and your retention time, etc.
So does Crystal work in the background? Does it run in the background at all, or is it? How does that work?
No, all it does is basically just give Safari a list, and then a list of rules, and then Safari just follows them rules. So Safari does the lifting in that respect. Apple's built that function to Safari.
Okay.
My app just gives it the list and updates the list and gives Safari a new list if there's an update.
I actually, here, I want to show this, see if I can bring this up. You had linked to, from one of your recent blog posts, you had linked to a list of websites that were going to be part of the whitelist. And hopefully I'm saying this right, so correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see here. I'll go ahead and present that to everybody so everybody can see it. And
okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can see over on the right-hand side, but that small little tick mark that's over there, right, for the scroll. I mean, this list is huge, and I can imagine. I mean, I didn't even realize that there's that many advertising URLs, right? I mean, I know there's Google is a big part of it, which you can see there on the screen. Google's a big part of it, but I just didn't realize that there was this many things.
They not only advertise this, some features that work wrongly with ad blocker, so it just like fix the error of the work, and it's not that for some of them.
Okay. So
how it works? How it works is these are the list of exceptions that would go in if you enable to view acceptable advertisements. Basically, it's not ad networks that apply for it; it's websites specifically. Small and medium websites get whitelisted for free after being reviewed, and larger websites, such as Google or Amazon, have to pay a fee to be included, and that subsidizes the smaller ones and enables everyone to do all the checks and all the administration work. So these aren't ad networks specifically; these are mostly websites.
Okay. Gotcha. So that's part of the list. But do you know, is the list of sites that are in the blocking? I mean, is this on par with the size? I mean, what? You know what I mean? Like how many networks are there that are out there being blocked? Or is it all part of the back-end system?
Yeah, it's all part of. I don't have a specific number in my head because it's a mix of. I've got about. I can't think off the top of my head. I think it's about 30,000 rules on there, maybe, because it removes a lot of the white space as well. So it does the CSS element hiding to remove the white space in websites. I believe that list there that you've got as a more. That's not the format Apple accepts it in, and there's a more efficient one that's that AdBlock Plus have made. That's a lot smaller than the one that you've just shown. They'll be a lot more efficient to use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's that whole thing is interesting. I did see on your site that you did a survey, and you said that 71% of people are not against ads in general. So
Yeah,
does that mean they just don't like the current state of ads? Is that what we're saying?
basically, yeah. 50% said they don't mind seeing ads to meet as acceptable criteria, or just over 50%. And 22% said they're happy to whitelist sites on their basis, so whitelist sites that they choose to see ads on to support their ads, so to support that site. So yeah, 1% of people in total don't actually mind seeing adverts in some sense, whether it's a site they support or just minimal advertising in general. One of the other questions in my survey was, why do you want to block mobile ads? And more than half, about 70%, said it was to, or 64% was either limit visual clutter or to speed up their browsing. So, and them two work hand in hand. If you remove the heavy resourceful ads that clutter up everything, the big images, the autoplay videos, that speeds up the browsing as a benefit because you're downloading a lot less large images or videos.
It seems like the whole thing is compounded by two things. One is, like you said, the quantity of ads. The fact that a content creator will take and put a bunch of ads on their site. It also seems like it's compounded with the fact that the ads aren't all that great, right? I mean, some of them are in your face, almost visually offensive, just to kind of grab your attention. And then it seems like the thing that's really pushing this right now, that at this point, is that so many people have mobile devices, smart devices, right? Not just flip phones. So many people have smartphones, and not every site is optimized for the mobile experience. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a contributing factor to this conversation?
I'd say so, yeah. I'd say so. I mean, I get the impression that most sites are tested, in an office on Wi-Fi, or maybe the mobile view within their browser, where there's a fast network. But a lot of them need to be tested as well in like a low network area, on 2G, 3G, just see how they load, see how quickly they load, and what improvements can be, because that's more typical of what an average user experiences when they're out and about.
Well, but we also see things like takeover ads, right? The pop-up screens, and then you can't click the X, or what I'm saying? Like it's a desktop experience on a mobile device, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
So it seems like we're in this mobile first, mobile responsive transitional thing where developers or content creators rather, are kind of like, well, I used to get all my traffic through desktop, and so I have all these desktop ads. But now they're getting more and more mobile traffic, and they really haven't made that switch or that conversion, and that seems to be pissing people off, for lack of a better term.
I've always pictured in my head, just thinking, just all these executives sitting around a table thinking, just saying, if we can make that X 3 pixels smaller, that would increase our click-through rate by like 6%. Stuff like that. That little X in the corner which cancels out that ad, it just keeps getting smaller and smaller the more I look at it. I think it gets bigger and bigger as I'm trying to press it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Do you think that this is that ad blockers are going to drive content creators out of business?
I doubt it. I'd imagine most content creators will have seen the trends over the past few years, especially if their business runs on advertising. Ad blockers are on the rise, and it's only a matter of time before they come to mobile. In fact, they've already been on mobile for a few years, because some ad blockers run, or they can't run properly on iOS. They do like a VPN offering where you filter your traffic and they block the ads for you. That's been around for a couple of years now. So, I mean, this is new stuff. This is stuff that content creators should be aware of if they rely on advertising, and they should see the trends and try and adapt to it. Another interesting stat from my... Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, another interesting stat is 22% of the people I surveyed who didn't want to see ads were happy to pay money to support the sites they support, or pay for extra content on the sites. So I know in terms of numbers, 22% isn't a lot, but then in terms of numbers, websites don't make a lot per person. I mean, if 22% of your traffic is willing to give you $5 a month, that's a lot of money potentially. If you can give them like an ad-free experience in exchange.
Yeah, especially if they're committing to something like that every month, right? Where right now ads are kind of a hit or miss. You either get paid, like you said, per 1,000, right? So however many people show up to your site, and you divide that by 1,000, and whatever advertisers are willing to pay, and then you can kind of do the math, or you get paid per click, and both of those things are completely random. Back in the .com bust days, Yahoo was one of those companies that was completely advertising supported, and when everything kind of went south and advertisers started pulling their dollars, it really made them scramble to try to figure out what they were going to do to survive. So yeah, if you could get something where you can have dedicated supporters on a regular monthly basis and know what your kind of, air quotes, know what your numbers are going to be, that would be a much better solution, I think, for everybody. So
yeah, I mean,
do you
even
think
if you've got,
along those lines? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, even if you've got like 100,000 viewers a month, if you can get 20% of them to pay you $1 a month, that's that's $20,000. That's a lot of money per month coming in.
Right.
So I'd say to content creators, just don't be afraid to ask for money in exchange for something good, in exchange for a good experience. I'd imagine a good number of people take that up to make it worthwhile. Obviously not the majority, but a very small minority. The same happens on mobile gaming. Like freemium games, you always talk about the big whales that are funding everything, and then you've got 95% of the users who don't make any money. You don't make any money off. It's mainly like the top 5-10%. Do you make the money off on these free-to-play games? So yeah, I'd certainly encourage that model for content creators, just to explore it at least.
Well, there's a lot more opportunities open today than I think in the past, right? I mean, there's a lot of small independent content creators are doing Patreon campaigns, and they're creating their own custom courses, or they're creating books, or they're creating they're coming up with solutions that meet the needs of their audience, and then trying to make that as their supporting revenue. And that seems to me make a lot of sense.
Yeah. That's the best thing about the internet today. Anyone can publish anything, be it an app, music, a book, a YouTube video, and start making money off of it. As long as there's an audience for it and you market it to that audience, you're doing well.
So I was going to ask this. I'm sorry. I was going to ask this of the panel. Do you guys think that content creators? Do you think it's I'm going to use air quotes here, a right for them to display ads? I mean, is it sort of a like a basic human right? I mean, do they have?
No, definitely not that.
And I asked that question because it seems like there's almost this air of we call it not where they use it all the time to describe millennials with entitlement, where you've created content, so therefore you should get paid.
Well, okay. I mean, sure. I feel for people who create content who want to get paid, but they're not entitled to put anything that they want and force me to watch advertisements. I mean, I see what you're saying. So I've created content. I've gone through a lot of effort. And I'm telling you that the deal is you can see my content, but you got to watch my ads. That's not quite entitlement. So I guess when I hear the word entitlement, suddenly my negative meter goes, nope, pegs right out and goes, hell no, heck no. But if you dial it back and we don't use words like entitlement, I wouldn't say they're entitled. There is some kind of contract there, though. Like a social contract. It's just not that strong. So, but I wanted to say is this still does not hurt these people, because that's my sense here is if I'm not going to pay any attention to your ads in the first place, then you weren't going to make any money from me, period. So if there's a way where the advertiser doesn't have to send the content and they don't have to pay somebody who didn't, I mean, it's good for the advertisers for sure, it seems to me, to block ads for people who don't want to buy your stuff anyways. And then it also seems like it would, and this is kind of stretching, but I think it's good for the people who are trying to make money off of advertisements, because they don't just want to make money, they want to have happy people. I'd rather have all my users enjoy my website rather than have like a bunch of advertisements on my site and then have people say, oh, there's too many advertisements on this site. This site sucks.
To put it maybe in a different way that I've heard it said before, is they're stepping over dollars to pick up nickels. Is that, you think that's true? That there's a better user experience to have, and if they could do that, they could have a tighter, more diligent audience, and then make more money that way. Anybody?
All I can say is I think that the user experience part you put on the end there is the important part.
You know what's more annoying than regular ads on a website? Do you know what's more annoying for a user than a regular ads on a website?
What's that?
It's when you go on a website, a new website you've never been on before. You try to read an article, and there's a splash screen blocking everything, trying, hey, sign up for our website if you want to continue reading, or something stupid like that. This is so annoying. I would love to have a blocker for that.
Sounds like a feature for 2.0.
Yeah.
I think version you remember you're at.
I think if someone, was that analogy? It says if somebody approached you in the bar and said, "Hey, would you like to get married?" You pretty much, your reaction is no.
Right.
Right. Those things happen slowly over time.
So you hang out in a lot of bars, Charles?
No, not here lately. But
he's already married.
I do watch a lot of television. All right. Well, I think we can all agree that a better experience needs to be had, and I think that everybody can probably benefit from it. So let's talk a little bit before we run out of time. Let's talk about your developer experience, Dean. Let's talk about, how did you come to this point? You're like, hey, like I said before, you've created some games and stuff and some apps, and you're kind of like, I think I'll make a content blocker. How did that come about?
Well, every year at WWDC, when Apple had their developer conference, I like to watch all the videos and see what's new, see what's interesting. And one of the videos was on content blocking. And I thought, well, I'll give this a go. So I made a little, very simple app, and I blogged about it. It basically blocks all the adverts on one web page. I targeted it specifically for one web page. It took about an hour to make after watching this video. And the page load time got from 11 seconds down to 2 seconds. And that was a big jump. I thought, that can't be right. So I cleared my cache, tested again, cleared it again, tested again. I was like, wow. So I wrote up a blog post, and it got spread around virally, and I got a lot of page views out of it. And then I thought, this might be, I should turn this into a product. There's demand. There's a lot of people interested. A lot of people talking about it online. So a few months later, I had a full working product. I blogged about it again, done the exact same blog post pretty much, but with 10 websites tested, and also had a little sign up link at the bottom. If you're interested, if you want to try and beta test it, put your name down, or and also I'll email you once it's released, so you can try it out. And I thought I'd get a few hundred people at most. I ended up with 12,000 people, and that gave me like a good platform to launch the app on. I could email 12,000 people, say, the app is ready, go download it. Tell your friends, try this survey I've got.
So you come up with this sort of MVP, this sort of minimal viable product that you could have just stopped there, right? You could have just said, hey, my experience is better, yay me, all right? But you decided then to go out, I think this is interesting, and do a kind of gauge other people's interests to see if it was even worth doing. Was that your intent? Is to see, like, should I even spend the time?
Yeah, just see if I can get a similar amount of page views as before. Actually got spread around a lot more, so I end up with a lot of page views. how many of them people will want to know about when it's released. So, like I said, I put a little email form up. It kept going up and up and up, and the more it kept going up, I thought I'm going to start paying for MailChimp because it's like 2,000 limit for free. 2,000 free emails you can send out a month, and this is going up to like 12,000. So it cost me about $110 to send out to 12,000 people, or about 11,800 it was in total. Another interesting thing, just as an experiment, when you install an ad blocker, you get a big performance gain, like I've said before, and it's something that has potential to grow virally. So it's something you tell your friend, look at this I've just downloaded, it makes my phone X times faster. So I decided to give it away for free for the first 12 hours, and just emailed it out to the people on my mailing list. And I was very surprised it got 100,000 downloads during that time, and they spread it around. But I also put a little donation link in there saying if you want to, if you feel guilty for not paying, feel free to donate some money. And surprisingly, there was quite a few donations coming in, nearly $1,000 in donations out of that 100,000 downloads. Obviously, a lot less than if I would have charged $1 a day on the App Store. But that was a very interesting model to try.
That's an interesting.
I also encourage.
Oh, I was going to. Sorry.
Yeah,
I was gonna
basically, I gave a list of. That's all right.
Go ahead.
Go on, do you want to go? Yeah.
Right.
Basically, I gave a list of 4 things to do. I said I'm offering this app for free. 4 things I'd like you to do in return. You can do any or all of them, whatever you feel. Rate the app, share it with a friend, take my survey, or donate some money. So that gave me a good launch platform to get out to a lot of people, get it spread around by word of mouth, get good ratings within iTunes, and also make a tiny bit of money on the side out of it.
That's an interesting point that you bring up. We talk about that a lot here on the show, is that for developers to put a button on their site so that people can give them money, because there's a lot of times when people want to give money. Case in point, there's the app, and my mind just went blank, but I'm looking at it right now. Hold on. It's Procreate. Procreate is coming out with a version 3 of their app, which has a lot of great features, and I personally want to give the developer money. They have said that it will be available to everyone who's purchased for free, sort of thing. And I said, I talked to them on Facebook and said, for someone who's inclined to do so, how can they give you money, right? Because this is obviously a lot of time and effort and energy to put into creating this update. I'm willing to pay for that. The Apple Store doesn't provide a way to do that unless you do in-app purchases. And they just said, hey, if you'll just share our app with your friends and talk, write a review and do these sort of simple things, then we'll appreciate it, right? That'll help us. But I think, yeah, why shouldn't developers go ahead and just put a button on their site and say, hey, if you appreciate it, drop me a few bones. Yeah. It can't hurt, right? And then obviously in your case, it didn't hurt at all.
No. If you don't ask, you don't get.
I tell you, here's what I hear. I hear you said you're talking about, and I'm going to call it being generous. You like you said before, could have charged a lot more, and the people who you have, these 12,000 people or so on your list, they probably would have bought, right? You probably could have done that, but what I hear is that there's a sort of an abundance mentality there, right? That these 12,000 people are going to be, they're going to advertise your thing, right? And they're a much smaller percentage of an overall market, right? Some people would say, oh, I want to make as many sales as I can, but that's almost contradictory, right? Or whatever you want to call that. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, they were a good seed, to launch it, like a good platform to launch it off of. For example, in 12 hours, I got 100,000 downloads. I didn't even touch the free charts. Didn't get anywhere near any traction going up there. As soon as I made it paid, within a few hours, I was climbing up the paid charts worldwide and eventually hit #1 in 30 countries. And it stayed there for a good few days.
So the being free in the beginning is almost like a reward to the people who participated early.
Yeah, that's how I framed it. As somebody showed interest early, I'd like to, give away for free, and you don't have to, but if you want to, you can help me out by doing these 4 things.
Were there any other things that you did like that were kind of like a marketing piece that helped, or you feel like is a good thing to do?
A little marketing piece. I use the iTunes affiliate links. So for every click-through or everyone who shared that link, for etc., if they bought anything on iTunes, that would get 7% of the value of whatever they've paid for. So I'd recommend doing that I'd recommend doing that to every developer who has a website and has it up on there. That's also in the app if you share it with the app as the little affiliate link on as well.
So I have one question for you. I noticed that you said in your interview with what was it, Rampant Ramblings? You said that you went from like 100 visitors a day or whatever to your site to 50,000 visitors, right? Something like that. Somewhere along the way, a huge spike in traffic. So I think heard you mention Squarespace. Did you use Squarespace?
Yes, I'm so happy I do, because if I use Squarespace. If I self-hosted, I'd probably go on like a very cheap plan for my usage, and then as soon as I get a big spike, it will just fail over. So Squarespace or any other large CMS like that will scale traffic, hopefully scale your site with the traffic.
Well, see, here's one of the.
Luckily, I had good performance.
Here's one of the things I keep hearing about Squarespace is that it's able to handle traffic spikes like that, and I haven't known anybody firsthand who could corroborate that, who could confirm that. But so you're saying it's true though.
A good test is to get linked to by John Gruber on Daring Fireball, and my site was linked to by him, and I had a lot of traffic, and it didn't have any problems.
Didn't even hiccup. Okay, good to know. So there you go. So if you're an app developer looking to get or any website owner looking for a platform that won't tank when you get the celebrity that you are looking for, maybe Squarespace, right? That's another marketing tip.
You can also use Google App Engine. It also scales up with.
But that's a little more geeky, though, right? Isn't that a little more techy?
A little bit, yeah. But you can install Drupal on it, and it will be nicely working as a normal CMC.
Because Drupal's not geeky at all.
Hey, I want to answer a question, but Dean, you may not want to answer this question, so I'm gonna try to ask it in a way that you're comfortable with answering.
Okay.
Okay. So my question is now you've been on the top of the charts for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to ask you how much money you made on this, but I will ask you, are you worried about having to do any work next year?
I've actually quit my job to work full-time on this now. So I've made enough money to support me for the foreseeable future.
That look that you see on Ed's face is one of complete envy and disdain.
No, not disdain. No disdain whatsoever. Envy, maybe. No, well, congratulations, though. That's.
Thank you.
If I thought about it, I would have highlighted your screen and then took a screenshot of it.
Well, this is what I figured. But no, I asked this question in all seriousness because, we don't. It's hard to get a sense of how much money people make, and nobody ever tells you how much money they make. And I'm not asking that number. However, what does it mean? You're on the top of the charts for 10 days? Is that it's a good thing, clearly, but, how good is it? So how long have this product?
I can tell you, can I interrupt for a moment? That there is a common study that shows that top games can earn from 1,000 to about 10,000 a day at the top charts.
That would be a decent. Income. I think it's that user base, right? Getting that user base.
Yeah, and there's another study that tells that on average, good application, good game earns first $1 million in half a year, in 6 months.
If you had any article links, that'd be nice if you could share them later, like on Slack or
They're in
whatever.
Russian.
Hey guys, I
Ed
just
will-
realized
Ed
I
will-
gotta go.
Ed
I'm
will learn.
not pulling this one out. This is the airport thing again, but it's true, okay? Except I gotta go to the train station this time.
Okay.
Okay.
So Dean, it was great having you on and getting to listen. And by all means, continue without me, you guys. But my wife will kill me if I don't go pick her up. And one more thing I wanted to say, I did have the editor done for today, and we're not going to cover it, obviously. So what I think I'll do is I'll make a very short video later and just post it so that people can see how to use it. And then we can talk about it next week or whatever. But I don't want to interrupt it anymore. I will talk to you guys later, and congratulations again, Dean.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
See you later, Ed.
All right. See you guys.
Cheers.
All right. Well, yeah, and I think we've kind of reached the end of it. I don't want to take up Dean's time too much. It's I know it's late there where you are and all that. So are there any last minute things that you want to say before we wrap things up?
Yes, certainly. 4 years ago, I never programmed before, and I started with Corona SDK. Stayed with it for about 18 months, and now here I am. You know, I've never had any like proper training how to program, or everything I've learned a lot through the Corona forums, through this show, the early episodes, and just asking people. So I'd say for anyone out there who's learning or struggling to learn, just keep at it, because it's very possible to go from the very bottom to the very top, even if only for a few days.
Oh, excellent. Well, yeah, I love it. I love it. When I saw your name on Crystal, and I saw what was happening there, I was like, you'd think that you were my child. I was just like so proud of you, man. I was like, yay, go Dean. So so that's cool. Absolutely. Well, congratulations. Yeah, I really appreciate you being on with us and sharing all the information and stuff. I know there's a lot of controversy and stuff that's going on. I think that the industry as a whole is just going through a lot of changes, and I think everybody will come out better on the other side, and that's all really anybody wants, right? So
definitely.
So all right. Well, thanks for being with us. We'll be here next week to talk about the editor that Ed was talking about. But in the meantime, you need to go over to crystalapp.co, or you can go to the iTunes store and you can find Crystal there. Just by what do they need to search for? Content blocker, ad blocker?
I think just Crystal. Crystal should bring it up. I think it's like that. It's App Store SEO magic, and it's top result. I think it is in the UK at least.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and go try it on. I know that I have it installed on my device, and I don't even think twice about it. It's just there, and now I every site that I visit is much faster, and I enjoy the experience. And I actually have a desktop blocker that I block desktop ads as well. And I mean, it's a personal choice, but I am one of those people who, like I said before, will pay developers directly. We'll send them money and say, hey, this thing is valuable to me. So it's not really about trying to take money out of somebody's mouth. It's more about the experience on the other end. So go check out Crystal, check it out, and see if it's something that you like and can work with. And if it is, share it with your friends. Tell them about it as well. And just know that the man that you see before you there, Dean, is he's working hard to make everybody's life a little better.
I like to think
All
so.
right. You like to think so. All right, Dean, hold on after the show. We want to talk to you a little bit more, but thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll be back here next Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific to talk all about mobile app development using Corona SDK. Until then, have a great week and happy coding.